Hello there. So here I'm making my third film, and I just want to be quite open with you. The only reason I'm actually capable of making these films is I did my emergency Ganesh mantra before I started, and I've made films in the last few months about the Ganesh mantra for the removal of all obstacles, such as the most obvious obstacle would be me breaking down whilst making the film. So far so good. So we're on the next one, and I simply call this emotional. Right, emotional. When anyone's going through any end-of-life process, the supporter of the carer is on the most extraordinary emotional roller coaster ride. And I've talked already about how that person can be affected energetically. But I really want to look at the emotional aspect of it, because this is probably the one you're even less likely to get much information about than all the other things. If it's something like cancer, Parkinson's, or any other end-of-life process whereby the person is compos mentis aware and capable of having a coherent conversation, it's one thing. It's horrific. It is absolutely horrific. However, it could be so much worse. So really what I want to address now is the emotional implications of dealing with someone whose cognitive decline appears to be stripping them away from you, rather as if someone went along up to a brick wall and took a freshly built brick wall and took a trowel and just took the top layer of the bricks off and kept on taking the layers of the bricks off, and the wall got smaller and smaller and smaller over time. Kind of what it feels like in this situation as the person retreats from us progressively over a period of time. And I've said this before, for example, supporting someone with cancer, this is where you learn that no matter what suffering I go through, it's nothing compared to watching someone I love going through that suffering. Infinitely worse. Something you'll just have to accept if you haven't had the experience. But with this, the reason why it's so much worse is because the person is literally moving away from you, from me, and that's really hard. So in my mum's case, she got the shingles first, so she was in agonising pain for a year while she had the dementia, which then became diagnosed as Alzheimer's, and it was just more and more difficult to be with her. And she also had the thing about the weight loss, whereby she was literally becoming what looked like a concentration camp victim. It's the only way I can put it to make it clear just what it's like, what it can be like. So what is going on from a shamanic perspective is their end-of-life process. There is so much resistance going on there, and there is so much of a situation where they have not dealt with their stuff in their life journey. And this is what is having such a big impact emotionally on us, the carers, the supporters. So it is so important to be aware of the fact that you might have all the highest aspirations in the world. You might be full of, well, my ... is not going to go to a care home, nursing home, whatever. You could have all these idealistic, high-minded, well-meaning feelings and approaches and ideas until a certain way station in their journey hits, because this person's on their journey, they're on this trajectory, and the trajectory to leave this physical life behind. And when you pass a certain station, it could just be you find yourself in a whole realm of horror you hadn't even begun to realise could possibly happen to you as the carer supporter. So it is so important, first of all, to feel the feelings, to feel the horror, to feel the agony, to feel the suffering in its fullest extent, as this person that you love so much is on this journey, to realize, and I need you to keep saying this to yourself over and over and over again in this process that you're going through with them. This too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. Very important to realize that, because then you go to the next stage, it keeps passing, it keeps changing. So feel the feelings. Do feel the feelings. Do reach out if there is someone that is able to listen to you, is able to look at your face when you're sharing what you've got to share. Please look after yourself to the extent that you allow someone in to help you on this journey. Very important indeed. Now here's a hard one. Please be aware that there are some people that will be in the immediate family or very close, and their response to the whole thing is to just step away and have nothing whatsoever to do with what's going on. Just completely step out. And if you're lucky, that person might be able to be in contact with you as the carer supporter. If you're unlucky, they might not be able to be in contact with anyone at all. That happens. People leave the family. It's too much. It's too scary. It's too terrifying. It's too real. This happens. So emotion is a very important thing for you to feel the feelings. And then remember, that's their way. That's their journey. Their journey is they're copping out on this one. They can't deal with it this time. Maybe something will happen to another loved one and they'll be right in there, but this time they can't cope. So please accept the journeys of those that can't be involved in any way whatsoever. Please get support from whoever is able to listen to you, look at you, hold you. Very important. Right, quick water and something else. It's about self-care. Please find what works for you with regard to self-care. I lived 5 minutes away from the ocean when I was going through my mum's end-of-life process, and it wasn't, oh, he's so brave, oh, look at him. It wasn't any of that bollocks. Pretty much every bloody day, whatever was going on, whatever time of year, no matter what the weather was like, I developed advanced skills about getting into the sea when it was pissing with rain, keeping my clothes dry, throwing them over my high-vis jacket over the clothes, getting in that water, total immersion in the water. If the waves are too strong to swim in, don't give a shit, just get in there, get totally immersed, let the wave knock the accumulated energy out of my body. So that's one of the things that worked for me. Every day I was blessed to be able to go into the ocean. For goodness sake, talk about lucky. So that was one of the things I did from the self-care front. The other thing is go to trees, stand under a tree. That was a wonderful thing to do as well. Eat well, eat very well indeed. Do not starve yourself. Do not stint yourself in terms of your needs. If you're able to sleep, for God's sake, let yourself sleep. If you find yourself sleeping at times of the day-night cycle where you wouldn't normally be sleeping, accept the fact. Also, do accept the fact that if you are less able to be there for other people, you're less able to be there for other people. Tell them politely at first, and if they really don't get it, tell them robustly. Tell them in a way that brooks no argument. I haven't got the energy to get involved in your dramas at the moment. Got my own going on, thank you very much. Be straight. Be honest. Now here's a really big one. This is going to help you enormously. I'm so grateful I'm being guided every second of the way by this film. One of the things that was very distressing for me was when I was in the care home with my mother and I was taking her out in the wheelchair. We went into the garden and she would point at this little building like a tiny summer house and she would tell me, I went to the pub last night, that's the pub over there, and we had some drinks and we did this and we did that and we did that. My mother is telling me what for me in my 3D reality are pure fantasy fairy stories. Load of bollocks. None of those things happened. You spent the whole 24 hours since I last saw you in the care home. You didn't go into any fucking pub. Okay, that might be how I felt, but what I had to learn to do was never to say that, because that would only have increased her emotional distress, which then would have massively fueled and amplified my own emotional distress. So I learned really early on. I'm a shaman. I was guided all the way through this process. Thank you, guides. Thank you, helpers. Guided every step, every millimetre of the way. So whenever my mother went into what I might see as a fantasy, I used to either stay quiet, or I used to say, yes, mum, or I used to just look at her. If you attempt to invalidate the reality of the person that's going through a illness like dementia and Alzheimer's, whereby they are in some other realm experiencing things which make no sense to you logically, please go along with it. Please do not argue. Please do not dispute. Please do not be, to them, a bloody nuisance at this time, because they're not going to be able to cope with it. And then the way they behave after that, you're not going to be able to cope with them. Really important to go with the flow. And that's really what I'm saying to you. The whole thing about the emotional issues of being the carer, supporter, of someone going through an end-of-life journey with cognitive decline like dementia and Alzheimer's, go with the flow. That's the best thing that you can do, as much as you possibly can. And I'm going to be bluntly honest, because there were ways in which I didn't go with the flow. I did encourage my mum to take a bunch of supplements at a time when I was probably wasting my time and her time. It really hurts to say this, but I did. Come on, mum, have some lion's mane. That ship had sailed some time ago. Come on, mum, have some of this, have some of that. I should have just shut up, really, and not bothered her. So yeah, I can look at that with hindsight and say, yeah, it wasn't my finest style, really. I didn't bully her, but I did hassle. Much better if I didn't. And you will find in the care homes that the foods that are offered to people with these conditions are toxic beyond belief. If they've reached the point that they're in there, probably better roll over and go with it, really. That would be my suggestion now. It's different if you're caring for them in the home and there's still the possibilities of communication. So the worst bit, the next worst bit, is when they have these injuries and they fall down and they break their hip and they break their hip again, and you go into the hospital and, well, if we don't do anything, she'll never be able to move out of the bed, but if we do something, then we'll actually enable us to get back in the wheelchair and she'll be able to walk with a walking frame. So the first hip break, we did go along with it. For the second hip break, we said, so you've got to take these things on the chin sometimes, however they go. So I reckon that I'm not really capable of saying anything more of any use on the subject of the emotional one. So that one is done. I'm going to take a longer break. Then I want to go fully into the shamanic perspectives of all this. So thanks for bearing with me on this journey. All the love to you again.